What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Minute Channel. And today we are going to be doing something that I've been thinking on doing for a while. And this started in a kind of different video context, and then it just turned into something different. But we're going to talk about the best Atlus games of the decade, I guess, so to speak. And this turned into a much harder video than I thought, because I didn't realize that from 2010 to 2019 Atlus did something pretty interesting with a lot of their big franchises. That is that they actually ported a lot of the games, and I didn't think about it before until I actually started doing the video. But a lot of the games that I was kind of like thinking about and doing and everything like that, there were also a lot of ports along with the new games and everything like that. So in this one, I just wanted to focus more on kind of like the newer games that showed up, but also some of the best ports / remakes, so to speak, and everything like that. But a lot of things came up from then up until this point. A lot of things came up, and this list was too big, so I tried to condense it a little bit. So hear me out. Not every game is gonna be in this, but I'll also kind of like throw them in, even though there's a lot of things that happened in this decade. So I do want to talk about a lot of stuff. So in no particular order, we're just gonna talk about a lot of the games. But we're gonna start with one of the kind of the newer surprises when it came to the beginning of the decade, and we're gonna start with Catherine. So Catherine was a newer game, I guess, from the franchises. I think it's the newest. One of the newest franchises from Atlus. Something completely different that is straight away from RPG gameplay, which is kind of like what they done so far in most of the games. So Catherine came out, I think, in 2011, and this game just was wacky and different. It had an interesting, really mature story, being approached in a completely different way than in the games from like SMT or the Persona games. It was just its own really niche kind of thing, and it's grown a lot since then. We had a remake this year. The game overall just did something special and different, and that's why I put in the list here, because I think that the themes that they were going for, the way that they approached the multiple endings aspect, the story and everything like that, it was so unique and so different that I think it deserves to be commended for what it was. I'm proud it is, because it had a remake, and the remake did a lot of good stuff as well. So I think that it was a really good game, and yeah, I think it does deserve to be in the list of the best Atlus games of the decade. So moving into other stuff, really interesting as well, and this is kind of gonna be a double combo, because I mentioned how remakes and remasters and kind of stuff. I want to talk about Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor, and this is a series that started back in the DS and moved on to the 3DS. SMT Devil Survivor 1 came out few years before the decade started, but Devil Survivor 2 came out in 2011 as well. For the 3DS, it was interesting, different. It had this series focuses on the tactical aspects and tactical RPG, which plays similarly to games like Fire Emblem, but it still has that SMT story type, and this series just was in the pocket version of a really big gameplay, and I really like that a lot. I think that this game did a lot of really good stuff to kind of like the tactical genre, which is not very big lately. I think that most games have moved through an action RPG or through a regular type of RPG, so these types of tactical RPGs are not as well used as they have. But SMT Devil Survivor not only did have one remake, had two remakes, the Devil Survivor 1 and the second one, and then obviously the release of the first one. So I think that the series did really good. It had interesting characters. The artwork is beautiful. It's very different from the Persona artwork, using a completely different artist. The storylines are interesting. I thought that this was a really good series to kind of pick up, because it really did pick up from the first game to the second game. It even had an anime, which has, well, I mean, I think this was the only Persona, not Persona, the other series besides Persona that actually got an anime out of it, and that was really interesting. That means that the popularity was really out there when the game came out. So really good stuff overall. If you haven't played that game, it's in the 3DS, you should definitely check it out. Or you can check out the remake. Like this is overclocked or overcharged. I don't remember what it's called, but it's also really good as well. Strongly recommend. But moving on into another game, and this is a remake. This is a remake, but this is a very special remake because it even reached my best games of the decade. That's how good it is. And that's Persona 4 Golden. So Persona 4 Golden, so I'm cheating a little bit here because this one did come out, I think, in 2008 originally, Persona 4, or 2009, I don't remember. But the remake came out on 2012, so sometime later. And I really like this game. I think that when you think of something like what a remake is for a lot of people, I think of games like this, because when you go back on the PlayStation 2 and play the original one, and then you play this one, there's so many stuff that was changed and implemented. The graphics were upgraded. At some point I even thought, oh, gosh, I really want Persona 5 to look like this. And it's silly, but back in 2012, this was a cornerstone to how Persona games should be made, and it really improved in a lot of different areas. They improved the story, they added characters, they had so many different stuff that I was really looking forward to. And when the game came out, it just delivered in every single one of the expectations. Obviously the game still had some flaws, and I think that overall some of the flaws were just made from the beginning because of the kind of story and game they were trying to do back when the game PS2. So a lot of things couldn't just change, but I think that they really did a lot of good changes here, and that's why I think that it deserves to be in this list here. So moving on into another game, I want to talk about another series, because this series also I feel like it really blew up when it came to the 3DS. And this series is not a series that I talk a lot about here, but I really do enjoy the games for what they are, because it's more, speaking of something like a pocket RPG, I think when I think of something that is like that, within the mobile genre, think of 3DS and the Switch and that kind of stuff. Very excited to see what's going to come out, and that is regarding ETRIAN Odyssey. So ETRIAN Odyssey 4 particularly came out in 2012, and then from the series just evolved and changed and gradually has become better and better, I think. But all of these games, from ETRIAN Odyssey 4 to Nexus, Odyssey 5, Mystery Dungeon, all of them do really well, reviewed really well. The gameplay is really interesting and exciting. It focuses on a puzzle type RPG where it's in a first person dungeon crawling type. It really is what I talked about before, a pocket experience, really well developed, and I really like that. The stories are interesting, the characters I like the chibi looking characters. In fact, this series did so good that they did a crossover, so to speak, for Persona with Persona Q and Persona Q2, because the character and the gameplay style really did really well. And honestly, my biggest question, so to speak, not question, but thought regarding all this is, how are they gonna move this to the Switch? Because one of the reasons why I think the series did so good is they adapted so well to the DS and the 3DS. The way that the gameplay works and everything like that, they are able to use that dual screen so well in how you're gonna map out the dungeon that you're exploring and everything like that. So I'm really curious how they're gonna implement the technology that they have now for the Switch for the next game, for the ETRIAN Odyssey 6. Or what are they gonna do? How are they gonna implement that? I find that's gonna be the intriguing part for me. The Switch can hold up pretty much better graphics. They can hold up better gameplay style. So I'm curious if they're gonna move from a first-person perspective for a third-person perspective. Are they gonna do more puzzle-based kind of stuff? I'm really interested in how they're gonna do this one, because I feel like this is an interesting series that really developed throughout the decade. That's why I put it here. It just really grew up a lot, and I really like it. I think it's one of the more interesting Atlus series out there, and I really find that good. But moving on into another series that I just couldn't wait, and I think that Atlus had a really good decade. I think thinking of all the games that I'm playing here and just kind of like thinking over time and how much it's been and all these awesome games. It's really interesting. This game is also on the 3DS, or long awaited. I mean, we're talking about this was long awaited, and when it came out, it was hugely successful, and the sequel was really successful too. And we're gonna be talking about SMT4 and SMT4 Apocalypse. I think that these two games were kind of like, but I'll say introduction to the MCT series to a lot of people, including myself. I played the Persona games and I played Devil Survivor, but when SMT4 came out, that really just got me into what SMT is, and I really love that game. I think that story-wise, I like the way that you're able to kind of have this line just based on your choices and what you do and everything like that. The characters were extremely interesting. They all had something particularly different for them, and I felt like they were so well developed and just something that I really like to do. The gameplay, although a little bit harder, I really enjoy the RPG mechanics and everything. That I just, this was such a well developed and written game, and I really can't wait for SMT5. I've made videos about this, but I honestly, like, this list wouldn't be, there's no way that this game would have not been in this list. I don't really like how much this game has gained attention, I think, from the popular, because SMT, let's face it, it's been a pretty niche series for a long time, and it still is very niche, if not for Persona and maybe some other series out there that kind of spread the word about SMT in general. I think that it will still be as popular, but SMT4 really pushed it forward. A lot of people that I talked to have played the game, even if they weren't interested on other SMT games or anything like that. So I find it really interesting that this one really picked up a lot of interest in a lot of people. So I like that a lot. But moving into another game, and this game is a really interesting game to put here because it's not developed by the guys at Atlus, but this is published by Atlus. This is made by Vanillaware. We're going to be talking about Dragon's Crown. So Dragon's Crown, I put it here because I think it's something that is different, and different in many different ways. And I chuckled because it really is. So Dragon's Crown is taking the 2D side scroller it to a different level, and this level is completely out of whack when it comes to the art design, the gameplay. It just, everything, it just takes it to a next level, and I really like how it turned out, how well it looks. The entire game was hand drawn. Everything just looks so good. The 2D style just really works well for it. There was a remaster for this game for the PS4, it's the Pro Edition. I think it came on a Switch as well, and it's really good. It's a really good game. I find it really interesting. The characters were intriguing. There was different characters that you can play as, and they all play extremely different. The gameplay style was interesting. I never played a game like this. I'm sure these games do exist and a lot of people play this kind of stuff, but this was kind of like my introduction to this style, and the art style is so beautiful. Vanillaware has this specific color palette that they use for all of their games, whether it's Golden Sphere or the new series 30 Sentinels they're doing. But this particular game, I love the medieval setting that they chose. Classic RPG type. You have your archer, you have your melee weapon guy with a sword and that kind of stuff. So there's all these different characters. They all do different things, and I feel like it works really well. But what really works for me is just how beautiful this game is. In fact, the first time I played this game, I was so surprised and so interested, and I was kind of like, I need more of this stuff. And unfortunately, we haven't heard anything about a sequel for Dragon's Crown, but I would love to definitely check that out. If you haven't played this game, you should definitely check it out. It's not an expensive game now. It's been out for a while, so do give it a chance and do check it out because it's awesome. And last but not least, this is kind of like the biggest game in the list besides SMT4, and I think that I left it last for a reason, and that will be Persona 5. Persona 5, I have a lot of thoughts on Persona 5, but I think that what made it more special was the wait. There was a lot of wait for this game. In between something like Persona 3 to Persona 4 to Persona 5, there was a lot of wait. And the wait wasn't always bad. I think that the wait was okay at some point because we had a lot of really good spin-off games for Persona 4, like the Persona Arena games that were really well made, Persona Dancing, which was interesting, Persona Q, as I mentioned earlier. There was a lot of really good variety there, but although all those games were good to hold off, we were just waiting for this game to come out. When it came out, there was a lot of suspicious, a lot of worries about, is this game gonna hold up against something like Persona 4 Golden? Because again, that was kind of like the landmark for how Persona should be. But this game just blew everything out of the water. I mean, even the first like couple hours that you play this game had everything. The anime graphics were next level. The engine itself that they used for the game was beautiful. All the characters models were so much crisper. I played this on the PS4 and I was blown away. This game just had everything: the gameplay, the style, the story, the characters. Everything was just so well implemented. They were really going for a specific type of story, and they really went for it. They really went all the way. Every single thing that they were looking for to do, they did it here, and they developed and delivered in every single type for me. This was my game of the year when it came out. I was really happy to how it turned out. This was just such a great game, and I can't wait for Persona 5 Royal. I mean, this is coming out next year. It's gonna be right at the beginning of the new decade. So this is definitely a good start. You know, I feel like this even left a big mark of how RPGs in general should do. And yeah, I guess this is why I've left it last, because I think this is kind of like my most fresh air idea when it comes to the Persona games and SMT and everything like that. I cannot wait to the future. The next decade for Atlus is gonna be even bigger, I think. This was a good decade. The last decade was amazing too. We had a lot of really good games to the PS2 and that kind of stuff. So I just feel like Atlus is growing bigger and bigger, and we are gonna see how this develops into the next decade. I think that Persona 5 was a good game, but I'm really curious how Persona 6 is gonna be. This is really kind of like my end thoughts on after talking about all of these games and everything like that. There was a lot of really good stuff out there. And let me know, guys. I know I didn't mention every Atlus games. I know I didn't mention a lot of remakes from other SMT games as well. A lot of ports were done this time. Things like Persona 2 was ported to the PSP. I mean, there was a lot of games that really didn't make it into the list. Again, I wanted to make this as condensed as possible, because I noticed there's so many games on the list. When you go to the Wikipedia and just look, there's so many games, and I was kind of like, there's no way I'm gonna do it all this. But I wanted to touch base with my favorite games, or the best games, or that I consider for the decade, because the decade's almost over, and I think this is an interesting video to do. I just thought about it. I was like, what if I did this? You know, what will be the reception like? And I really want to hear your thoughts about it, because again, I find this to be something worth talking about, I think, more than anything else. But let me know, what are your favorite games of the decade for Atlus? What was some of your bigger surprises? Things like SMT4 or Persona 5, or was there something that I didn't talk about that you were kind of like, wow, this is such a good game, why didn't you talk about it? Let me know in the comments below, guys. Again, thank you so much for watching this. Enjoy you guys holidays. And one thing before I do let you know, I'm still doing the giveaway. It's gonna be ending in about 2 weeks now, so please, if you haven't already, go check in the comments below. There's gonna be a link. Click in the link so you can win a copy of Persona 5 Vanilla, or a gift card to the Switch, Nintendo, the PlayStation Network, or whatever, Steam, just a gift card, or you know, the money. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this. If you're new, please consider liking and subscribing, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time.